Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Brock Page, and I don't know anything about sports handicapping. I'm also still doing random sports picks for fun, and you might be interested and surprised as to who I'm picking in the NHL today. If you just can't wait and you want to save yourself some time, check out my picks for this video in the description section below. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. And with that said, let's get into some picks for April 17th. Let's start in the East. I'm talking about Ottawa at Boston. The betting opened up with the Bruins laying 175 on the money line and the total at 4.5. Since then, Boston's now laying 170 on the money line with the total moving up to an even 5 goals. As always, the favorites are laying 1.5, and at the moment, 64% of the bettors think Boston will get the job done. Projected starters in net: Anderson for Ottawa, Rosk for Boston. Speaking of the Bruins, they stole one on the road in Game 1 and find themselves knotted up going into Game 3 at home. Not bad considering Boston was a winless 0-4 against the Senators during the season. The Bruins are facing an Ottawa team who's winning just 48% of their games against teams around 500. Before Game 2, Boston games went under the total in their previous 3 matchups consecutively. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think Boston wins it at home for some money line cash. And when it comes to the total, I think this one stays under 5 goals. I also think the Senators keep this one close and get the job done at plus 1.5. Next game, Washington at Toronto. The Capitals are currently laying 155 on the money line with the total at an even 5 goals. As always, the favorites are laying 1.5, and at the moment, 59% of the bettors think Washington will get the job done. Projected starters in net: Holtby for Washington, Anderson for Toronto. Speaking of the Leafs, they're hanging tough in the series, but throughout the year won just 8 of 25 games against teams over 500. You may see that affecting them later in the series. Toronto is facing a Washington team who's an impressive 21-9 versus teams around 500. They're also winning a solid 68% of their games when Holtby starts in the net. When it comes to the total, 2 out of Toronto's last 4 games have gone over the line. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think Washington wins it for some money line cash. And when it comes to the total, I think this one goes over 5 goals. I also think the Leafs keep this one close and get the job done at plus 1.5. Next game, we're going to move over into the West. I'm talking about Chicago at Nashville. The Predators are currently laying 120 on the money line with the total at an even 5 goals. As always, the favorites are laying 1.5, and at the moment, 72% of the bettors think Chicago will get the job done. Projected starters in net: Rene for Nashville, Crawford for Chicago. Speaking of the Blackhawks, they've been ice cold as of late, losing their last 6 consecutive games. They dropped games 1 and 2 at home and have dug themselves a 6-foot hole going on the road here. They've also scored a pitiful 2 goals in their last 12 periods of play. They're facing a Nashville team who's a solid 18-11 versus teams over 500. In addition to that, one of the Predators' last 4 games have actually gone over the total. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think Nashville gets the job done for some money line cash. And when it comes to the total, I think this one stays under 5 goals. I also think Nashville gets themselves an empty netter, getting the job done at minus 1.5. Next and final game for the show, Anaheim at Calgary. The Flames are laying 125 on the money line with the total at an even 5 goals. As always, the favorites are laying 1.5, and at the moment, 57% of the bettors think Anaheim will get the job done on the road. Projected starters: Gibson for Anaheim, Elliott for Calgary. Speaking of the Flames, they've struggled against Anaheim, winning just 1 game against the Ducks all year long. Unfortunately for the Flames, they're facing an Anaheim squad who's been red hot at the end of the year, winning their last 6 straight games. When it comes to the total, both games 1 and 2 pushed at a total of 5 goals, but I think we'll see ourselves an empty netter in this one. All that said, I'm ready to make my pick as I think the Ducks get the job done for some money line cash. And when it comes to the total, I think this one goes over the 5 goals. I also think Anaheim at minus 1.5 gets the job done on the line. Well, folks, that is going to do it for me. Once again, I have to remind you that I am not a sports betting expert, nor do I implore you to take any of my picks. A wise man once said, good ain't free, and free ain't good. If for some reason you decide to use the free information on this program, you're utilizing it at your own discretion. Most importantly, if you're betting any of these games, do it safe, do it responsibly, And most important, have fun. For Brock Page, predictions and sports picks, I'm Brock Page, and have yourself a positive day.